Well, Trends forecaster Gerald Celente has been going through boxes of Kleenex tissues, crying his eyes out over the plight of IRS agents facing prison sentences. Gerald is on the telephone to share his heartbreak with you and me. Gerald, you going to make it? You okay?
Well, anytime somebody in the IRS gets in trouble, boy, it just breaks my heart.
It is, isn't it sad watching these guys squirm on the hot seat?
These people are disgusting. They even call themselves human beings. And we'll look at the lack of dignity and respect and courage that they don't have, and how transparent it all is. And, Rick, you'll remember when this IRS story broke. It was low-level employees, I tell you. Yeah, sure. Anybody that knows how the government works, low-level bureaucratic employees are just that, low-level people who will never be anything in their lives other than servants to their masters. And their masters are servants to other masters. I say this from experience. As a young man, after graduate school, I used to run political campaigns in Westchester County, the richest county in the United States, and was the assistant to the Secretary of the New York State Senate. I did such a great job that they wanted to promote me through the ranks. And it was the worst job I ever had in my life. All day long, all I would do is watch grown men grovel to suck their way up to the top. Grown men and women, I should add. So this is just typical of what the whole system is.
Your first thought when you heard that Lois Lerner, the IRS official who was in charge of the tax-exempt division, when you heard that she was taking the fifth today, what was your first thought?
Oh, exactly what I would expect. Because what happens is, have you seen any heads roll in Washington on anything that they do? Whether it's look at the whole financial situation. We've been robbed in the broad daylight by the Wall Street mafia. You haven't seen one head roll. Look what happened with the Iraq War. Each day is part of a subscription to the TrendsJournal. We do Trends in the News. Well, I just did today's Trends in the News before I got on the air with you. And I was reading, another 40 people killed in Iraq. 300 this week. 300 in a week. Hey, the world is better off without Saddam Hussein. The guy that had weapons of mass destruction and ties to Al-Qaeda? Hey, who said that? Who are the people that, where's the proof? Why can't we find out who knew what when? That's old news.
By the way, Barack Obama has weapons of mass destruction and ties to Al-Qaeda.
Well, look what's going on. Oh, then I read again, 6 killed in Yemen with drone strikes. Suspected militants. That's what happened to due process in the Constitution. So what I'm saying is that there is no morality. So without any morality, how could there be any legality?
We're in an age of lawlessness, Gerald.
Exactly. Again, immorality. That to me is where it all starts. And I don't mean that, on the religious sense. I mean it on the deepest human spiritual sense. So, of course, religion is a part of that. But it's morality. It's do unto others as you would have them do unto you. In the United States, they're terrorists. So they're not. Who's the terrorists? Aren't we the ones attacking other countries? What if the Afghans were attacking America? What if the Iraqis were attacking America and they were in a neighborhood near you? I would be one of the first guys out there with my weapons trying to blow their brains out. But no. When we're in a foreign country and they want us out, they're militants and they're terrorists, boys and girls. So going back to the IRS, it's more of the same. Oh, look, here we are. Today, Ben Bernanke announced that more quantitative easing. You mean Osama Ben Bernanke, America's public enemy number one? 100 years of Federal Reserve rule over the American people? You want to talk about tyranny and dictatorship? They're in control of our money supply, and this guy telling us what they're going to be doing? And then they do it and they get away with it? So, no, this is just more of the same, a different face, a different lie, and a different crime.
I know it's really difficult for the Obaministas right now to keep track of the lies. I mean, they got so many scandals breaking out simultaneously that they can't remember what they said yesterday. But, Gerald, do you have any thoughts about why all of these scandals broke simultaneously on Mr. Obama?
I just think it was, I have no inside knowledge. I just think it, just happened as it happened. But fear not, Rick. Watch for another wag the dog moment.
Well,
I remember them well under Bill Slick Willie Clinton. Oh yeah, every time that he got caught in a scandal, it was bombs away over Baghdad. How about another missile in Mogadishu or somewhere around Mozambique, wherever?
Don't forget about Yugoslavia. They got pounded.
Wasn't that a lovely war, destabilizing that region as well? Yeah, so that's what I expect. Another wag the dog moment that will make people forget these things.
I was going to bring this up because just a few minutes before coming into the studio, I saw this article out of Depka File and the Times of Israel and various Israeli newspapers today, stating that an Israeli Air Force general said, we may attack Syria at any moment.
And why shouldn't they? I mean, they attack anybody that they want. America attacks anybody that they want. Why shouldn't they attack Syria? After all, Israel has the supreme right to defend themselves. And they warned, by the way, a few days ago, that if Syria retaliates, they'll be angry and bomb them again. So not only will they attack Syria, Syria's not allowed to retaliate.
Well, I just, when I read the headline a few minutes ago, my first thought was I just imagine Barack Obama calling Benjamin Netanyahu, and if their animosity is true between the two men, but I could just hear Barack Obama saying, "Benny, my friend, I've been thinking about this war thing. You're right. We really should bomb Syria. I think this is a great time to start the war. What do you think, Benny?" Because, what's Obama going to do right now? He's got alligators around him.
Again, I also, by the way, I believe that part of Obama's trip to Israel recently was to discuss the war plans. And if you go back, by the way, to two things with Syria and Benghazi, you go back to our past Trends journals, particularly the autumn issue. We wrote about Benghazi in more detail of what was going on because that's what the journal does. It's truly a journal of the times. And from that, we write history before it happens. We detail this far greater than what's even being detailed now, of the lies that were being told, the timeline, and the details around it. The other one was Benghazi, with Benghazi, rather. The other issue with that one is that, when an ambassador, and he wasn't an ambassador, of course, a consulate, when he gets killed, it's a big deal. But, Rick, I read off the names of the dead men and women that are serving in Afghanistan maybe once a week. Nobody cares. But, hey, one of the Harvard, Princeton, Yale boys get wiped out. That's a big one. So I believe that Obama's trip over there had to do with Syria, Iran, and what was going on in Libya, and that plans have already been made to attack and become involved in Syria, and that's why his trip to Israel was so important.
Of course, the other thing that we could consider is that these multiple scandals, Benghazi, the IRS, spying on reporters, and so forth. Gerald, this could end up costing the Saudi royal family billions of dollars to buy him off of this one.
Yeah.
You know how many people, how many reporters, how many judges, how many people you got to pay off? This is going to cost the Saudis billions.
Well, yeah, but there was a great, wonderful, our great allies, the Saudis, that wonderful kingdom. You know, I love when the Obama apologists make excuses of why we're still in Afghanistan, why they had the troop surge, was to bring independence and freedom to the Afghani women. You know, you heard that one. You know?
Yeah, right.
Well, you know, Saudi Arabia, the place where women can't drive a car, right? And it gets worse. But yesterday in the news, I'm going through all the international news, and there's a picture of two cranes with a line going between them, parallel to each other, with 5 headless people hanging from them, upside down, sideways, in a public display that the Saudis just executed. Aren't they wonderful? Isn't that a great ally to have? And showing the dead bodies of these 5 Yemenis that they accused of stealing money or doing something, hanging in public display. These are the American allies. These are the places where we send our men and women to go to protect. This is at a level of insanity. Now, when this is read in the future, and of course history will be distorted, but even at its distorted level, people are going to say, my God, this was actually going on?
Jaron, I sincerely, I mean, we make a lot of comments here, but honestly, I think a spirit of madness has overtaken the country.
I think it's overtaking the world.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the leaders. It's a freak show. Mad Magazine or Marvel Comics could not create better characters than Hollande or Sarkozy of France. That little chicken hawk, that little Eton boy, Cameron. That other guy over here, Obama, the one before him, Bush. Cheney is right out of central scripting for, you know, the evilest of the evil empire madman behind the scenes. Clinton, the con man extraordinaire. These are sociopaths and psychopaths. Right here in New York, now we have Anthony Weiner running for mayor. This is the guy that was caught on Facebook and Twitter doing these grotesque tweets and showing himself in underwear with bulging to show what a man he is now running for mayor. Sociopaths and psychopaths. These are brain-damaged people, and they're ruining the world. A small group of people are destroying the planet. Oh, I forgot Berlusconi, Monti, and now Letta of Italy. And you go around Rajoy of Spain. Just look at the faces, the composure. Oh, Merkel, how could I forget her? It's a cavalcade of clowns, and they're destroying the planet.
And speaking of Miss Merkel, she's in trouble right now because she has to explain these photographs that have appeared of her as a young woman in East Germany marching in military fatigues in communist parades. And it just turned out that she was the director of propaganda and agitation for this communist youth league.
Brilliant.
And now she's the chancellor of Germany. How's that stuff happen, Gerald?
Well, it happens exactly the same in every country, but it's different. The people that you now have as presidents and senators and congressmen are the same people you hated in high school and college that wanted to be class president and head of the student council. They worked their way up the line. You remember them, Rick, the brown-nosers, the suck-ups, the insincere, the overly ambitious, the glad-handers. You know, they're the same people, and all they do is follow their career path. Again, these are sociopaths. They have no remorse about who they are or what they do. They're never sorry for the things that they do. And again, this Anthony Weiner, and the perfect name, by the way, for the guy, the perfect name for a guy. And here he is running for mayor. Oh, and by the way, he has about a $5 million war chest.
Gerald, I do believe that there is a hidden shadow network of of men and women. No, I'm not saying a conspiracy. I'm just talking about it's just a very tight circle of people that know each other, went to college with each other, have been in business, that come from the royal blue blood families, and it's a very small group. But I believe that they are constantly recruiting. They're looking for new young talent. They're always bringing bright young men and women into their web to train them up to keep this little regime propped up over decades.
Oh, I agree with you 100%. I put it into different language. Harvard, Princeton, Yale, bullets, bombs, and banks.
There you go.
I mean, that's it. It's
there's no business like war business.
Yeah, bullets, bombs, and banks. So when you're talking about recruiting them, yes, it's a small group. It's the blue bloods. You see, what people don't understand, and they have to get used to, is that they're better than we are. You understand that. When they commit crimes, they don't pay for them. The smallest violation that we make, they have us there for full enforcement of the law. So it is. That's all it is. It's a takeover. And they've taken over. The country is lost. I've come up with a new name for America. I call it Slavelandia.
Slavelandia.
Yeah, you get look all of these college commencement, addresses that they're bragging about. What are these kids going to get when they get out of college? What are they going to do with their university degrees and worthlessness? That they're in debt for $40, $50, $60, $100,000. What are they going to get a job at? Well, they can't open a hardware store anymore if they wanted to be an entrepreneur because, hey, Home Depot and Lowe's have all the action. Can't open up a clothing store or a haberdasher. Macy's, Targets, they have all the action. You can't open up a pharmacist. You can't a local pharmacy anymore. You can get a job for a CVS or Rite Aid or Walgreens. You can't no family farms anymore. No, but maybe you could work in a slaughterhouse for Tyson or ConAgra, do something for them. It's Slavelandia, and it's a takeover. And a takeover, there are two things that I always say, and you tell them, and people's eyes roll, and the next question they'll say is, what do you think the Yankees have a shot at it this year? One is that Eisenhower, Supreme Commander of the Allied Forces, 5-star general, 2-term Republican president, warns the American people as he's leaving office that the military-industrial complex is robbing us of the genius of our scientists, the sweat of our laborers, and the future of our children. It happened. The other one is Jesus Christ. People say to me, Mr. Celente, you sound angry. And I say, listen, if I sound angry, remember, Jesus Christ, the Prince of Peace, became violent. He picked up a whip to drive the money changers out of the temple. And on that money changer note, here's a quote. History records that the money changers have used every form of abuse, intrigue, deceit, and violent means possible to maintain their control over governments by controlling money and its issuance. James Madison. From Jesus to James to now, nothing has changed. You put the facts in front of the people, and they don't want to hear it, they don't want to believe it, and they're doing nothing to change it. The majority. We need a small, dedicated minority of people that want to bring morality back to America to change it.
And I always recall, that famous quote from President Andrew Jackson about the bankers, where he said, I'm just paraphrasing him, by God, I will drive you out of this country, talking about the bankers.
Yeah.
Because they've always, from the very beginning of this nation, were seeking to take control of the nation.
But again, this is as old as Christ.
That's right.
That's the point.
That's right.
These are the same people. They just gave them different names. They went from money changers to loan sharks, the bankers.
Gerald, I got about 2 minutes. Where do you see this going in the coming decades?
Well, again, it's a decline unless the people move it forward. Protests are worthless. We need a new system. And I'm a strong proponent of direct democracy. we don't have any democracy. We have a gang of 535 that are senators and congressmen that tell 315 million people what to do, and they only represent the most powerful and the people that give them the most amount of money. I mean, anybody knows that. They call it campaign contributions. I call them bribes and payoffs. And in Switzerland, it works pretty well. If we want to go to war, let the people vote. You want to bail out banks, let the people vote. If we could bank online, we could vote online. Could it be corrupted? Less so, I believe, than the corrupt system that we have now, where all states have, different methods of cheating and letting their guy win. It could be totally transparent, and we could have the best, and make it totally open, so it could be, the algorithms could be monitored by the best computer skilled people around, and we have to bring it back to the people. But most of all, nothing is going to change until the individual changes. And when I say that, I mean change spiritually, emotionally, and physically. Stop eating junk food. Buy the highest quality. Support your local merchants. Break the chains. Don't buy anything at chain stores that you don't have to. Get yourself in the best shape you can, again, spiritually and emotionally. And when the people change, that's the only way I believe it's going to change.
And you're going to have to decide you don't want to live in Slavelandia anymore.
No.
I'd like to expatriate to Fredonia. Do you remember Fredonia?
Fredonia. Oh, yeah.
See,
Who
there
said
you
it?
go.
The Marx Brothers.
That's right. The Prime Minister was Groucho Marx. That was a great country to live in. My guest, Gerald Celente, and he's the publisher of the Trends Journal. You can subscribe. I receive it here at my office every month, TrendsResearch.com. Thank you, Gerald.
Hey, thanks so much for having me on.